Mom is still indoors, in the midst of an unexpected fire at my son's family home. My 7-year-old grandson's tearful cry stunned me. His mother vanished without a trace 2 years ago, leaving no contact with her family. Finally, there were no eyewitness accounts, and the truth was shrouded in darkness. But hasn't Mom left? I couldn't understand what my grandson had said. However, my surprise grew when the firefighters emerged from the flames, carrying something 60 years old. After losing my husband, I had been living alone for the past 2 years. It might appear lonely, but I found contentment in my solitude. The reason my son's family lives nearby. Ryan, my only son, married Amy, who is 2 years younger, and they had a child together. When I see my son happily living with his beautiful wife, who looks like a model, and their adorable son Oliver, I feel happy too. I thought this routine would last indefinitely, but then something felt off. During a visit to my son's house, I felt it. "Hello, Amy. Mom is here. Hurry and bring some tea." "You don't need to be so fussy." Ryan, with an oddly triumphant expression, said goodbye. "Coddling her like that will make her an inconsiderate woman. I'm the only one crazy enough to marry her, so I need to make her realize." His words made me frown. Normally, my son and daughter-in-law get along well, but on this day, he appeared to be in a bad mood and was unusually confrontational with Amy. Despite the hurtful words, she smiled and brought the tea, making me feel uncomfortable. "Hey, isn't that a little harsh?" I couldn't let it go and turned to face my son. Amy, who was always gentle, dismissed it, but his demeanor bothered me. As Ryan's mother, I felt compelled to correct him. However, he responded, "What does it have to do with Mom? Forget it. I am not feeling well." To my surprise, he sulked like a child and went to his bedroom. Even Oliver, my grandson, appeared nervous in this tense environment. "Daddy, sometimes it's like this. It wasn't like this before. Has anything happened recently?" His sad voice tugged at my heart as I looked at Amy. She smiled softly and responded, "He's been stressed at work." I assured her that she did not need to be concerned because I did not press any further. "Please do not hesitate to contact me if any issues arise." Finally, I left my son's house without determining the source of his irritability. The unsettling atmosphere piqued my interest, but I was hesitant to interfere too much with my son's marital problems. However, a few weeks later, I witnessed another unusual scene. Hello, Amy, Oliver, shopping together. I happened to notice them at the local supermarket when they turned to greet me. Their expressions appeared strangely subdued. "You don't look well. Is there anything wrong?" I remembered my recent visit to my son's house. Amy smiled again and responded calmly, "It is nothing. Just a little tired." But the unease persisted. Suspicious of her facade, I looked into their shopping cart and saw an abundance of bandages and disinfectant. "What is this? Was anyone injured? Oliver isn't into sports, correct?" Before Amy could respond, my son appeared, apparently having returned from the restroom. "Hey, Mom, are you here too?" "Sorry, but we're in a hurry. See you later." Without appropriate greetings, Ryan hurriedly took them to the checkout. His commanding presence, Amy and Oliver's nervous energy, and the contents of the cart. Bandages and disinfectants add up. I need to have a proper discussion about this. Finally, I had a feeling that something was wrong. I watched them walk away, silently deciding to take action. A few days later, I paid another visit to my son's house. However, it appeared that my actions were already too late. "Hello? Wait, where is Amy?" Actually, she left. There is no contact whatsoever. After hearing the story, his words of regret left me speechless. She vanished without a word shortly after that day at the supermarket. Her parents had died early, and there was no way to contact her. We have already contacted the police, but there are no eyewitness accounts. Ryan appeared completely defeated, and Oliver huddled in the corner of the room. I felt a sense of helplessness wash over me, and I sensed something was wrong. I never imagined it would get to this point, but wallowing in despair wouldn't help. "I'll look for her too. Amy, it must be okay. Please pray for her safety." Encouragingly, I decided to find her in the hopes of restoring my son and daughter-in-law's happiness. Despite my wishes, no useful information emerged. Despite all of this, the situation remained stagnant. Ryan continued to work stoically, But Oliver appeared deeply affected, withdrawing into himself. It's understandable given how young he was when he lost his beloved mother. Where could she have gone, leaving behind such a cute child? Despite my frustration, I maintained a close eye on the remaining 2 years after Amy's disappearance. A sudden turn of events upended everything. It happened one day when I was out shopping. As I exited the supermarket, I noticed a commotion around me. People murmured unsettling phrases as if there was a fire. To confirm their statements, a fire truck's siren blared as it sped down the adjacent road and towards its destination. I had an ominous premonition. Isn't that the direction to Ryan's house? Ryan had not yet returned from work, so Oliver, 7 years old, would be the only one at home. Worried about my precious grandson? I dashed towards their house. I hoped it was all a misunderstanding, but my gut instincts were often correct. Oh no, Oliver! The area where my son's house should have stood was engulfed in towering fire. I pushed through the crowd, desperate to reach the house. The situation was unclear, but there was a chance Oliver could still be inside. Grandma came next. When I heard the familiar voice, I turned to see my grandson being carried by a firefighter. It appeared that the quick response had saved his life. I'm relieved to see Oliver safe. I was taken aback when he cried out at the raging flames. Mom is still indoors. His unexpected confession made my eyes widen, alternating between shock and disbelief. What are you saying? Mom departed 2 years ago. Didn't she know her father's lie? Mom is still there. We need to help her. Confused? I held my grandson's hand, regardless of the chaos. Oliver's distress appeared genuine, and soon enough, his words were proven correct. Mom, really? After hearing Oliver's words, the firefighters entered the house and emerged with Amy, blackened but still alive beside me, who had no idea what was going on. My grandson wept uncontrollably, and his words struck me like a punch in the gut. Dad is to blame for everything. The shocking truth that followed left me breathless. The next day, alone at home, I waited quietly for someone. Since then, the story I'd heard from Oliver was far too cruel for me to accept. However, as a result, with a strong determination in my heart, I took a specific action to see the truth for myself, and a few minutes later, the doorbell rang. Mom? Where is Amy? Where is my wife? Ryan. Sweaty and out of breath, he barged into the house, desperately searching for his wife, and I watched him with a mix of sadness and resolve. I called his name. I told you Amy was waiting based on an email, but that was false. I assumed you'd come here. Why should you wait? Where is she? Could there be a fire? Ryan's face paled, and I looked at him in silence. My son had not come to pick up his son since hearing about the fire at his home. Oliver and Amy remained missing. I had a general idea of the reason, but we couldn't proceed until I heard it directly from my son. She's in the hospital with Oliver. She is severely injured, but her life was saved. However, there is something we should talk about first, right? It's not a huge deal. Was Amy's disappearance a lie? My son flinched as I remembered the conversation I had with Oliver after the fire. According to Oliver, Ryan's story about Amy leaving 2 years ago was entirely fabricated. Amy had been confined to a hidden room within the house and forbidden from leaving. He told his neighbors the same lie about her disappearance. Naturally, there had been no missing person report filed with the police. Oliver, too, had been threatened not to seek assistance. Fearing that speaking up would result in worse consequences for both him and Amy. And, unbelievably, Ryan had mistreated Amy, withholding food and even threatening her. The situation was far worse than I had expected. Oliver attempted to cook for his mother, feeling sorry for Amy, who was exhausted. However, a nearby kitchen paper towel caught fire from the gas flame, resulting in the recent house fire and revealing the truth. Why would you confine her for 2 years like this? I asked Ryan, my voice trembling as I thought about Amy's emotional state and how terrifying it must have been for her. Alone in a dark room, having been mistreated by her husband and unable to seek assistance due to the false belief that she was missing. However, in response to my inquiry, my son's face turned red with rage. It's entirely her fault. She flirted with the other men. His unexpected words startled me, but he paid no attention and slammed his hand on the table as I listened. It became clear that Ryan's jealousy had played a significant role in Amy's situation. Ryan, for example, could not tolerate Amy conversing with male coworkers or cashiers. He was prone to violence, and the large quantities of bandages and disinfectants she bought were most likely for treating her injuries. So I made her quit her job and made sure she went shopping with me. But still. Then, during a family outing, Amy's beauty unintentionally triggered a pivotal event. As they walked through town, a man approached her and expressed interest. Ryan erupted in anger, despite Amy's innocence. Like the first time, I sensed something was amiss. She grew cold toward Amy, eventually confining her at home. She begged to be let out, but he continued the mistreatment, justifying it as discipline. Ryan's defense: "I'm simply protecting my wife. She flirts with other men." His strained voice echoed, leaving me speechless as I realized the concern about Amy's attractiveness. It did not excuse inhumane behavior, regardless of love's influence. Ryan was to blame, not his wife. My son has drastically changed. I felt angry, sad, and frustrated. Moving a step closer. "Even so, you will not see her again. Why not? She's alive, right? She will not see you because I am turning you over to the police. I have recorded this conversation. There is no escape, so prepare yourself." Ryan's eyes widened in response to my words. The fire department's diligent efforts had partially saved the house, including the room where Amy had been confined. The police launched an investigation after hearing testimony from the firefighters who rescued her and reading Oliver's account. Ryan has ample evidence. This recording would probably seal his fate, but I just adore Amy. What is wrong with that? Perhaps they realize what lay ahead. Ryan collapsed on his knees, tears streaming down his cheeks. I can't believe my son, whom my late husband and I raised, would do something like this, but he is an adult. No matter how much he cries like a child, he cannot undo what he has done. Ryan's only option is to atone for his sins and live a more fulfilling life. And as a mother, it is my responsibility to guide him in the right direction. All the more reason to pay for your actions. I couldn't stop myself from getting frustrated. Ryan looked up, defeated, and I returned his gaze. "Let us go to the police together. It's the only option left for you," I finally told him. He nodded in resignation, and we went to the police station. Ryan was arrested after being presented with sufficient evidence. Naturally, he and Amy divorced, with Amy receiving a $20,000 settlement, with a lengthy sentence and a restraining order preventing him from contacting his ex-wife and child. Ryan would not see them again. I also cut ties with Ryan, and now Amy, Oliver, and I have relocated to a different town to begin a new life together. Amy, who had been visiting the hospital frequently, is now on her way to recovery. We wish for a peaceful life ahead, enjoying our newfound happiness as a family. How did you discover this story? Do not forget to subscribe to our channel. See you in the next video. Mom said to leave. Can you let us stay just tonight? My 9-year-old grandson paid us an unexpected visit late at night. I rushed to open the door and discovered him in bare feet, blood oozing from his toes. Furthermore, he was tightly gripping the hand of his 4-year-old sister. Tears were streaming down her face. "Did you two really walk here by yourselves?" They nodded, and I quickly let them in the house. However, when my husband awoke, he was furious. Absolutely not. The terrifying expression on his face moved the grandchildren to tears, leaving me perplexed. They should have been allowed to stay for only one night. After that, I couldn't believe my husband's actions. I'm Margaret, a 63-year-old homemaker who lives with my husband Patrick, who is 2 years older. He was a high school teacher until he retired at 60. Our 2 children had married and established their independence. Our daughter Laura lived in a nearby apartment, while our son Richard lived in the next town. Victoria, our eldest son's wife, is stunningly beautiful, with translucent white skin and big eyes that would make even women swoon. She was the ideal daughter-in-law, as long as she kept quiet. However, she had a terrible mouth. Everyone wonders why a woman of my caliber would marry someone like him. Are you saying Richard isn't up to your standards? He works for a top-tier company and earns a decent salary, but let's be honest, he's not particularly attractive. But I'm not too picky, so he's lucky, I suppose. I couldn't help but be angry when she mentioned my own son. "Who do you believe you are?" I wanted to say, but I held my tongue because I didn't want to argue. However, my husband could not remain silent. Richard certainly married an impressive wife, didn't he? Despite the sarcastic remark, Victoria appeared unconcerned and even smirked dismissively. Richard responded with a wry smile. Victoria is too good for me to see this. I imagined that my kind-hearted son was facing difficulties in his marriage. Despite their differences, they have a child together. Daniel, our first grandchild, had a strikingly beautiful face that reminded us of his mother. In terms of personality, he resembled Richard, who was extremely kind, a perfect combination of his parents' best characteristics. I looked forward to Richard occasionally inviting Daniel over to our house. Victoria rarely visited, but I thought it would be best for both of us. We also welcomed Emily, a granddaughter born 5 years after Daniel. She was a cute girl with fair skin, chubby cheeks, and round eyes. However, when I went to my son's house to celebrate her birth, Victoria glared at the baby. Daniel resembles me and is stunning. But why is this one so overweight and unattractive? Who does she even resemble? She's not attractive at all. Your mother. Do not say such a thing. She is perfectly cute just the way she is. I can say anything I want to my own child. Are you trying to cause trouble with me? Well, I am not going to lose to an old hag like you. My husband's expression quickly changed when he overheard this conversation beside me. I could tell he was about to shout in my defense, so I rushed in. Instead, it was our son who raised his voice in rage. "Victoria, enough! Mom and Dad came to celebrate. There is a limit to how rude one can be. Oh, how unusual of you to stand up to me. That quote is quite interesting." She glared at Richard, appearing ready to strike. So I quickly relented. "I apologize, Victoria. You've just given birth, and this is a stressful time. I should not have said that. I apologize. Please forgive me." Exactly. You should have said nothing. You could have sent a monetary gift instead of traveling all the way here." Victoria's demeanor was consistently lacking in manners, but I couldn't say anything more due to incidents like this. Following that, we became increasingly distant. Despite this, Richard continued to bring Daniel and Emily to us on a regular basis. It made us happy to see our adorable grandchildren, but I still had some concerns. Daniel was bright and talkative, but Emily, even at the ages of 3 and 4, showed few signs of speaking. Furthermore, her fair skin had turned extremely dark due to sunburn, and her hands were rough and dry. When I asked Richard about it, Victoria explained that Emily enjoyed playing in the garden. However, the condition of our granddaughter's skin was very concerning. One day, our family was hit by tragedy. My son Richard died suddenly. He fell from the stairs of a pedestrian bridge while commuting and was transported by ambulance. He was taken to the hospital and given intensive care, but he died. I was so shocked that I couldn't stand up. "Richard, you poor thing. It must have been painful." Daddy, what is wrong? Wake up! Wake up!" Daniel cried uncontrollably, while Emily was expressionless. She bites her lip. Victoria, without crying, continued to fiddle with her phone. Looking back, it was a strange scene, but I was overcome with grief and couldn't pay attention to anything else. My husband received our son's old and worn-out bag from the paramedics who discovered it beneath the pedestrian bridge. It was a bag I had purchased for him when he began working. He's been saving and working hard for his family, and he believes this has made things even more difficult. Our daughter's husband organized the wake and funeral, and everything went smoothly. I spent my time at home in a daze. It was the day following the funeral. In the middle of the night, the intercom rang, and I wondered what was going on. I looked at the camera and noticed Daniel biting his lips. I quickly opened the door to let him in. Daniel spoke in a strained tone while holding back his tears. Mom told us to leave. "Can you let us stay just tonight?" My grandson was barefoot, and blood oozed from his toes. "Did you two walk here by yourselves?" The grandchildren nodded, but it was a 10-minute drive from the nearby town. While 9-year-old Daniel might be able to walk, Emily was just 4 years old. It was the middle of the night. They must have been terrified when I let them in the living room. My husband had also awakened, so I asked him about Daniel's request to stay only for the night. "Grandpa will leave tomorrow. Please." "Absolutely not." When the grandchildren saw my husband's furrowed brow and fearful expression, they burst into tears, and I was taken aback. Can quote, "T, we at least allow them to stay for one night?" I started pleading, but my husband hugged the grandchildren tightly and sobbed uncontrollably. Even at our son's funeral, he held back tears. We've been married for 30 years. However, this was the first time I'd seen my husband cry like this. Do not say just for today. Stay here forever. Poor you. Those words helped me understand his feelings. I could not stop crying. Later, I asked the grandchildren what had happened, and their response was shocking. Victoria, who was supposed to be a homemaker, was frequently gone during the day, leaving the children alone at home, even when she was there. She frequently scolded and pushed Emily around for a variety of reasons. As a result, whenever Emily cried, Victoria would shout angrily, "Shut up! Be quiet! You are annoying!" Emily eventually learned to cry silently without making a sound. Daniel was also reportedly chastised for attempting to defend his younger sister out of sympathy for Emily. He could escape his mother's behavior by attending school. Emily, who was not permitted to attend kindergarten, did not have this option. Emily apparently went outside every day to eat from the garden while her mother was present. This was her attempt to avoid reprimand and possibly earn some praise from Victoria. This explains why she had a deep tan and rough hands. Emily's inability to speak could be due to a fear of being scolded. Thinking about this gave me a sense of helplessness. That evening, Victoria appears to have informed them that guests were on their way and directed them outside. Daniel managed to put on his shoes, but Emily was unable to do so in time and was left barefoot. Victoria quickly locked the front door behind them, so Daniel placed his shoes on Emily's feet and held her hand as they walked to our house for assistance. What an awful thing to do. Unbelievable. I tried calling my daughter-in-law several times, but was unable to reach her. It was late at night, so I decided to sleep with my grandchildren. Daniel awoke me early in the morning, though. "Grandma, I apologize for waking you up. Emily claimed she saw Dad in her dream. Did she?" Then Dad instructed Emily to look inside the bag. I was taken aback by his words, but Daniel's serious expression made me wonder if there was more to it. Then I woke my husband and told him what Daniel had said, still groggy. My husband was initially skeptical, but when he checked our son's bag, he exclaimed with surprise, "No way! This is outrageous! I am unable to forgive this." We decided to act out of anger. Afterward, we quickly called our eldest daughter, Laura, who lives nearby, and asked her to come to our house to care for the grandchildren. Meanwhile, my husband and I rushed to our son's house and rang the doorbell several times, but no one answered. However, we continued to ring the doorbell persistently. My daughter-in-law finally appeared in her pajamas, collar open and disheveled. Geez, so much noise. Who the hell is it? At that point, I caught a brief glimpse of a young man with brown hair crossing the back of the room, completely naked. I knew it. However, as soon as my daughter-in-law recognized us, she widened her eyes and quickly shut the door. As so impolite of you to come here. Suddenly, "Go home!" my daughter-in-law shouted aggressively from behind the door. "We have an urgent matter to discuss. Please open the door." I said I couldn't open it right now. I reluctantly opened the door using the key I discovered in my son's bag and inside. "Oh no!" exclaimed the young man from earlier. "Run!" He dressed quickly and fled from the house at the entrance. She stood defiantly, glaring at me and my husband without any remorse. "What are you doing here? Before anything else, are you currently cheating on your husband? What happened the day after he died? Do not be ridiculous. Oh, he's just a gas repairman. Nowadays, gas repairmen work without clothes." Victoria noticed my sarcasm and clicked her tongue in annoyance. Her beautiful face belies her ugly personality, which is evident in her expression. "Richard has left, and I am done with you both. You have no right to say anything. Just leave." At that point, my husband. His face flushed red with anger as he asked her, "I cannot see the grandchildren. Where are they?" After that, my husband went to check something. Victoria appeared to be at a loss for words while pretending to search the house, but she quickly began shouting angrily at me. "They visited a friend's house. What is wrong with that? Stop lying." Were you not concerned when a 9-year-old and a 4-year-old were gone all night? Are you even a mom? How do you know about that? They walked all the way to our house late at night. As I explained this to her, she looked puzzled and surprised. She responded shamelessly with a brazen attitude. Our daughter isn't cute at all, and the son I raised with love rebels against me. I do not need those brats. You are welcome to take them, but please give me money. I want $100,000. It isn't much, right? She really was the worst kind of woman. I was furious at the thought of my son and grandchildren suffering because of such a woman. Unfortunately, you cannot spend money while behind bars. I've recorded the entire conversation. You're so naive. I will be released soon enough, just for being a little harsh on the children. It is not only about the children. You understand that taking someone's life is a serious crime, don't you? And there is evidence. Actually, Richard's diary was in the bag. Victoria's frequent outings led him to suspect she was having an affair. In addition, there was a report from a detective hired by Richard for the investigation. According to it, his wife was having an affair with a young man she met at a pub, the same man who fled the house. Furthermore, the diary stated that I have felt my life was in danger. Richard appears to have had several close calls with accidents, such as almost being hit by a car while walking or nearly being pushed onto train tracks while on a platform. He suspected his wife was targeting him, so he took precautions and was preparing to divorce. That may prove my affair, but it does not prove I killed Richard. It's just the ramblings of elderly people. The police have more important tasks to complete. Can you continue to say that after hearing this? As I argued with Victoria, my husband appeared with a surveillance camera. He discovered the day before Richard died. He had set up a surveillance camera in the living room, as recorded in his diary. When he played the recording, he heard a conversation between his wife and the young man. It went well this time. I pushed your husband hard down the stairs. Thank you. Now we'll receive a large life insurance payout. Victoria became pale, her lips trembling uncontrollably. I said it as a joke. How far can you take your lies? I will present all of the evidence to the police and request a reinvestigation. Your affair partner may reveal everything about you during questioning, but... Oh, Laura mentioned something like this. The location where Richard fell is a busy pedestrian bridge, and many cars now have cameras installed. Laura suggested spreading the word via social media to see if there were any witnesses at the time. Victoria's eyes widened and she appeared shaken, putting a hand over her mouth. She quickly adjusted her tone and began to apologize. I apologize. That man threatened me. If you overlook this, I will pay you half of the $100,000 life insurance payout. Excuse me, you are not the beneficiary. That cannot be true. We made each other beneficiaries when we married. I informed her that, according to Richard's diary, the beneficiary had changed from her to Daniel already. Richard had established a trust system that allowed his children to receive benefits once they reached a specific age, regardless of their current age. That is ridiculous. It was a plan to obtain a large sum of money. She collapsed on the spot, sobbing and screaming like a child, completely miserable. We watched her in silence. After that, both were arrested. Taking someone's life is a serious crime, and they are unlikely to be released for a long time. Even if they were released from prison, no one would want to associate with them. Currently, my grandchildren live with me. In fact, my daughter and her husband live with us and care for our 2 children as if they were their own. Emily, who was previously quiet, has begun to open up and speak more freely. I'm determined to stay strong and see these children's happiness through to the end.